Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Governing Board of January 27, 2015, and I'd personally like to welcome you on behalf of the board. Welcome and thank you for coming. I'm sorry. I would like to now recall to order the regular board meeting of January 27, 2015. And up first will be the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Haver.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some substitutes to announce this evening, and that would be forgive me if I get this wrong, Osaro Igihodaro, or Ighodaro, for Sherry Olson. Student Life Reports. 3.1, Mr. Michael Green, Director of Student Life at CGCC. Welcome, sir.
President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, and the Chancellor's Executive Council, and guests. My name is Michael Green, and I'm the Director of Student Life and Leadership at Chandler Gilbert Community College. Tonight's presentation is in two parts. Part one is regarding the District 3-Day Leadership Retreat in Prescott, Arizona on September 19th, 20th, and 21st in 2014. And part two is the Associated Students of Chandler Gilbert Community College presentation on what's happening at our college. We'll start with the retreat. The 3-day leadership retreat, the theme was Model the Way, which is taken from the book The Leadership Challenge by James Coos and Barry Posner. It was 3 days in the cool pine trees of beautiful Prescott, Arizona. Over 150 students from all over the 10 Maricopa colleges, along with Central Arizona College and Coconino Community College, attended. This retreat is a labor of love. I'm here to represent the retreat committee, and as the chair of the committee, it has been a pleasure to work with student life staff from all over the district and also outside the district. Committee members on that retreat committee, KT Campbell from Chandler Gilbert Community College is on the side. Connie Greenwell and Lena Frazee are also from Glendale Community College, are here. And also the program specialist at Glendale Community College, Jesse Leach, helped with the editing of the slideshow, which you'll see at the end of the presentation. A highlight of the weekend was the inspirational keynote speaker, Associate Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Dr. Felicia Ganter, who's here. And we had leadership workshops, which included teachers teach others to model the way, find your voice, personify shared values, and service project with Ben's Bells. Another highlight was Meet Your Role Models, a rotating leadership panel with various MCCD staff and administration, including Dr. Paul Dale, Dr. Daniel Kaur, Joni Grover, Maria Wise, Osaro Igadaro, and Juan Mendez from the Arizona State Legislature. All took part in the rotating model or leadership model. In the spirit of One Maricopa, the 3-day leadership retreat has grown from one college, which was Chandler Gilbert Community College, to what it is today, with 10 plus colleges in the last 15 years. This year, we also included a student staff to the mix. We allowed returning students that had attended previously to return as student staff capacity. 3 students in particular shined in this role: Daisy Fletcher and Francisca Morales from South Mountain Community College, and Anaya Williams from Gateway Community College. These 3 took on most of the pictures and produced the end of the retreat slideshow, which you will see at the end of this presentation. So some reflections and some takeaways. Every participant was able to identify personal values according to their principles and to develop their leadership skills. Every student was also able to understand the importance of being involved in service to the community. They participated in Ben's Bells, whose mission is to inspire, educate, motivate people to realize the impact of intentional kindness and to empower individuals to act according to their awareness, thereby strengthening ourselves, our relationships, and our communities. Pieces of the bells are sculpted from clay, kiln fired, glazed, fired again, and then assembled. By the time Ben's bell is finished, which every participant was a part of, 10 people had participated in this creation of the Ben's bells. Another student, Lauren Lancaster, who's the president of the Associated Students of Chandler Gilbert Community College, will also add some of her reflections about the retreat.
President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Lauren Lancaster, and again, I am the student body president at Chandler Gilbert. Currently, I'm majoring in business, and I'd like to become a legal interpreter for the deaf and hard of hearing. So apparently, being a leader is not holding a leadership position. At least, this is what the Student Life and Leadership Retreat has taught me. During this 3-day seminar, I discovered my values. I also learned that they're not just my opinion, but they're the foundation of who I am, who I want to become, and what I strive to be now. I was also able to meet and listen to many leaders in our community who shared their secrets to success. This included, but is not limited to, Maria Wise, Megan O'Connor, Paul Dale, and even Dr. Felicia Ganter, who explained networking as one of the most important aspects we can have. The best part is as simple as a firm handshake and making eye contact. At the Student Life and Leadership Retreat, I learned to always sleep on the bottom bunk. Time management is crucial. Communication skills will take you very far. And most importantly, I learned about me and what type of leader I am. Thank you.
Now the pictures. It's been said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Please watch this short video.
So if by the time the bar closes and you feel like falling down, I'll carry you home.
My father's side.
Like when you said you felt so happy you could die.
Forget about your friends, they don't care where we go. If they do, we'll get lost in a crowd of people. What does the fuck say? Take that money, watch it burn. Sing, can you live with the message I learned? Take that money, watch it burn. Sing, can you live with the message I learned? Like a wrecking ball. I've been locked out of hell.
Oops. Sorry. I'll let the students introduce themselves.
President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glassberg, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Karina Palmatier, and I'm the Vice President of Associate Students at Chandler Gilbert Community College. I'm graduating in May with an Associates of Arts. After completing my schooling, I plan to become a missionary and open up orphanages in third world countries. We're excited to be here tonight, and we hope that 2015 will be a great year. As my role as Vice President, I work with the different clubs and organizations on campus. We currently have 12 active clubs that make up the advisory board and 2 that are in the process of being formed right now. Next week, we'll be having our annual club fair. If you would like to stop by on February 3rd and 4th from 11 to 1, we are more than welcome to.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Schallenberger, and I am the treasurer of Associated Students over at CGC campus. I'm majoring at nursing, and last semester we have had a lot of fun activities. One of those that we have just recently kind of educated you or informed you a little more about is our leadership retreat. In October, we started off our year real strong with our Kickin' It with Cody event. This was a great opportunity for us to show our students our new Coyote Center, as well as showcase some of our sporting events. This was a great turnout. We had a lot of fun events for our students. We had games, we had a photo booth, we even had a hula contest. So it was really fun. We got a lot of our students involved in this Hawaiian themed event, and we hope to kind of do more activities like this following semester. So as we transition from that to our November event, which was our Students Appreciation Day, we kind of seen morale drop a little bit as we kind of head into that season. So we decided to kind of use the Thanksgiving season to serve our students some hot cocoa in the morning with donuts and some nachos and lemonade in the afternoon. And so we decided to do that because it's not your ordinary day. So it was a very fun little thing, and we've seen so much participation and turnout. So it was definitely a real big success. And then as we headed into our December months, we've seen that, again, stress starts coming as we head into the final season. So as a former member of Psychology Club, I took the principles I learned from that club and incorporated them into this activity. So I really enjoyed this. We had our students write their stresses and what's stressing them out, both at school and home stresses. And we kind of, as they were writing it, we kind of seen the stresses vanish and smiles appear. So it was definitely a lot of fun, and I've learned so much being a participant of this. So thank you for listening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Johan Hernandez. I am the Public Relations Commissioner, and I am majoring in business. So this semester, we are focusing on encouraging students to join more clubs and recruiting new members to our student leadership team. We are starting off the semester with an event called Poppin' In with Cody. Poppin' in the pavilion, sorry. It's a little confusing. And so students are able to come in, enjoy free pop or popcorn, and we use this as an opportunity to show them about our clubs and introduce them to what's going on in the campus. And on February 17th, on National Random Act of Kindness Day, we will have free ice cream for all the students. Personally, I am very excited for that day. And we're also planning a movie night, a tailgate at a baseball game, and we're also planning a food drive for the Salvation Army. So last semester, I was able to volunteer at the Salvation Army located in Chandler, and I left with an impression that they are, now more than ever, they need the support from the local community. So what I really like about this specific location is that it was placed in the middle of a low-income neighborhood, and so children and teenagers who might not have a meal from when they come from school, they are able to go to this location and receive a free, decent meal. And they are able to stay and play games or finish homework afterwards, which essentially gives them a feeling of safety and comfort. And so that is the reason why we decided to organize a food drive for them. And that is all for tonight. We thank you guys for letting us come and speak to you. Have a great rest of the year.
have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Board members, anything?
Quick one. This hula thing, Dr. Lujan, I'd give anything to see that.
Yes.
I appreciate the note about the volunteer work. I think every time students come to present to us, they mention some sort of volunteer work. Each time a student group comes to present to us, they mention some sort of volunteer work they're doing in the community. It's consistent at all 10 colleges. We're really pleased that these students are getting out and making a contribution to the community.
And we see that like these people that we're helping now could potentially be like, when we say teenagers, in a year or two they could be members of our campus. So us participating in the Salvation Army with them now could make them see college as an opportunity for them, and especially like in lower income areas, they might not see that, hey, there's a scholarship out there, like there's a lot of opportunities to make especially junior college affordable for you. So just being a presence in their area can be the difference. So.
Quick comment. What you went to experience brought inspiration to you. What you've just stated brings inspiration to others.
Mm-hmm.
You're very correct. They may not know what's out there. And you may have just recruited quite a few onto our campuses, but more importantly, you may have recruited many into the land of education. Thank you so much for what you do, and your inspiration will bring, or the inspiration you gain every day and give to others will bring student success and your own success. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. Dr. Anna Sully, for Emeritus Awards and Recognitions.
President Livingston, I request
Sorry.
permission to approach from the podium.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, President Livingston, members of the governing board, colleagues and guests. It is my pleasure tonight to first of all introduce a distinguished professor from Phoenix College. We are recommending her for faculty emeritus distinction, and this is my wonderful colleague, Deborah S. Dorr. Faculty Drafting Technology at Phoenix College. I'm going to ask her to come forward, but I'm going to say a lot of things about her. So Professor Dorr, please come forward. Professor Dorr has been a residential faculty member at PC for the past 18 years in the Architectural Drafting Technology program. She is an alumnus of our college, having graduated in 1992 with an AAS degree in architectural drafting. After graduation from ASU with a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Technology in 1995, she taught as an adjunct instructor at Mesa Community College. Then we hired her at PC as full-time faculty in 1996. She earned a Master of Education degree at ASU in Educational Media and Computers in 2000. She has served as the program director and chair of the Industrial Technology Department and the Applied Technology programs. She chaired the Drafting Instructional Council for many years, and she was also the lead for Maricopa on the Articulation Task Force for the Technology Articulation Task Force. Throughout her tenure at PC, Professor Dorr has served on many committees: strategic planning, master planning, commencement, ADA disability, emergency preparedness and staffing, to name a few. She was a zone senator on Faculty Senate and served as our Faculty Senate president during the 2008-2009 academic year. She's also been on our Alumni Association Board of Directors. She's presented at several conferences during her tenure. She served as our faculty developer. She's been an advocate of higher education to the community, a strong believer in servant leadership, and a favorite teacher of our students. Many of her students have transferred to ASU and successfully completed their degrees in architecture and construction and are now working in their chosen field. She is well-liked, and she's highly respected by all, not only at PC, but certainly within Maricopa. So it is my pleasure to present the Emeritus Distinction Award to Professor Dorr, and I'd like to have her come to the podium and say a few words.
It is really been a pleasure. I didn't imagine this 30 years ago when I started teaching, or actually when I started as a student at Mesa Community College in 1985, that 30 years later I would be standing here as a retiree, as a faculty member. It just wasn't on my horizons at that time, but the longer I was in Maricopa, the more the idea of teaching came to me, and it became my second and my last career, and I've enjoyed all 20 and a half years that I've spent as an employee at the Maricopa Community Colleges. Thank you.
Continue on, Dr. Sully.
Thank you. And now it is indeed my pleasure to introduce to you the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching and the Council for Advancement and Support of Education, our 2014 Arizona Professor of the Year, James Sousa. And I'm going to have him come forward and I'm going to say a few more things about him. James is a star. He's a rock star at PC, mathematics faculty member, and he's really put us on the map in terms of open educational resources and MOOCs. And his award is presented to him because he has celebrated extraordinary dedication to undergraduate teaching at higher education institutions in the United States. He has demonstrated a passion for educating, a commitment to his students, and innovative instructional methods. He has enriched the lives of thousands of students, not just locally, but nationally and even internationally, huh, James? So his achievements as an educational leader have inspired and motivated others, and this award is a tribute to his outstanding accomplishments and his rock star status. So let's give him a wonderful round of applause. He has agreed to give you a brief introduction to OERs and MOOCs, so enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So imagine all students having access to the course materials that they need to be successful on the first day of class. Imagine extending learning beyond the 16-week semester, and imagine saving students hundreds of dollars each semester on course materials. This is all possible through the use of OER and MOOCs, and through an environment of sharing and collaboration. OER stands for Open Educational Resources, which are freely accessible, openly licensed learning materials that are helpful and useful for teaching and learning. And you can see they take on a variety of forms: ebooks, videos, learning management systems, and so on. So when we hear the word OER, we're talking about, in general, free course materials. When we hear the word MOOC, MOOC stands for Massively Open Online Course. And in general, a MOOC may have no registration fees, but it may or may not be taught using OER or free course materials. When I think about why I got involved with open educational resources, I think this quote summarizes it fairly well. The purpose of life is to contribute in some way to making things better. I know there's a lot of other residential faculty across the district that also feel the same way, because I've collaborated with them, as well as faculty across the nation, to create complete OER math courses. When we talk about complete courses, we're talking about math courses that offer ebooks, workbooks, video lessons, video examples, online homework with instant feedback, as well as additional activities. Let's take a quick look at what an OER math course might look like. I worked on this course last summer, and this is just one section in a Calculus 1 course. Within this one section, students have access to the following resources. They have access to an ebook in the upper right-hand corner where they can download, save, or print this. They also have access to video lessons that explain all of those math concepts in that section. And these videos allow students to customize the instruction to their needs. They can watch it 3 times, 1 time, they can fast forward it, rather than listening to a lecture in class. The third link is for the online homework. And within the online homework, they also have access to a bunch of resources. Most of the questions have a short video clip that explain a similar problem. At the bottom of the question, students can access the instructor by emailing them the question. They can also post this question to a forum where students can help students 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, all for free on the first day of class. My biggest contribution to OER is probably the videos that I've created and host on YouTube. I've created over 4,000 math videos ranging from basic arithmetic through calculus 3 and beyond. And when I look at these statistics, I find it very rewarding, but really these statistics are not about me. It's about the collaboration of faculty, again, across our district and actually across the nation. On an average day during the semester, they're viewed 35,000 times per day during the week. And if we take a look at 4 weeks of viewing time, it actually comes out to 4.3 years of time. So every 4 weeks, the videos are viewed a total of 4.3 years combined time. They're also viewed, as Dr. Saleh mentioned, across the world. The top 5 countries are the US, Canada, Philippines, UK, and India. Within the United States, the top 5 states are Arizona, Washington, California, New York, and Texas. And it's pretty rewarding in my fact to wake up every morning and get comments on YouTube from, again, all over the world. I'm fortunate enough that other sites that target other countries have been interested in hosting my videos. So TES Connect is out of UK, TES Australia, TES India. And some of the stats are actually not in the YouTube stats because they're not hosted on YouTube, they're hosted on their own server. Again, because the videos are openly licensed. More locally here at Phoenix College, we actually are offering 10 OER courses to anybody in the world. We've been offering developmental math MOOCs. We call those MOOCs because they do offer instructor interaction. We had 344 students enrolled last semester. These are free courses. The idea here is that students would complete these courses at no cost, retake the placement test, and test into college level mathematics, rather than spending all their money in financial aid on courses that don't actually count for math credit. And this semester we have new offering of 8 new self-study courses. Actually, let me go back just for a moment. We also have over 100 high school students this semester enrolled in the developmental math MOOCs, getting ready to come to community college. The 8 self-study courses are basically, you can think of as portals of resources for students across our district and throughout the world. And of course, these courses meet all of our competencies. So if a student is in a class that isn't using OER, or they want to prepare for a class over the summer, or they want to work ahead or review, all these courses are available to them for free to log in, watch videos, extra practice, and so on. At the district level, we have the Maricopa Millions Project, which is made up of residential faculty as well as advising presidents. And the goal of this district-wide committee is to save students $5 million over 5 years. You can see over the first 2 years, there's a projected savings of almost $3.5 million. Again, this would be savings in course materials. Maricopa Millions also funds the development of new OER courses, listed on the right of the screen there. And Maricopa Millions has also made it available for students to search for all the courses that offer no-cost or low-cost course materials. Under the More Search option on the online class schedule, you can see on the far right there, there's an option there to search for no-cost and low-cost textbooks. So bringing this back together and back to this quote, I think about how Maricopa can contribute to making things better. And I truly believe that we can. So I ask, why not us? Why can't we be leaders of innovation? Why can't we be leaders of OER across this nation? Why can't we make a difference in our student lives? I believe we can, and there's a lot of residential faculty out there that also believe that, but we need your help. I understand that what you support and what you don't support is going to have a lasting impact into our future, and I hope you'll make those decisions carefully. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you very much, and by the way, congratulations. And I don't know, but I think I have seen you on a video, so you are a rock star. Just saying. This is the section that is the Citizens Interim. Oh, I'm so sorry, it's not. Mr. Rock Arnett, President and CEO of the East Valley Partnership Award. Please come forward. Thank you, sir, and I'm sorry. Got so excited there.
President Livingston and members of the governing board, what a delight to be here with you and presidents and guests. It's my high honor to come and introduce to you an award that was given to Chancellor Glasper that just was an award, and we refer to it as the Dwight Patterson Lifetime Achievement Award. The connection is quite amazing in my judgment. In the late 50s and the early 60s, Dwight Patterson, who farmed and had sheep at the corner of Dobson and Southern, went to California, and he saw the California community college system and came back to Arizona and said, we need to do this here. And it started, and Dwight Patterson is somewhat the godfather of the community college system, adding to Phoenix College and the others back in '65. Now, we have named this award after him, and I would like for someone to help me start this video. And then it would be a young person.
Dr. Rufus Glasper has demonstrated more than 3 decades of leadership in the East Valley, making Maricopa Community Colleges not just a premier educational system, but a premier community champion. Dr. Glasper joined Maricopa Community Colleges as Director of Finance in 1986 and assumed the role of Chancellor in 2003. During his tenure, he has overseen tremendous growth while maintaining fiscal stability.
He has taken to the next level one of the largest institutions for higher education in the world, and that is one which involves hundreds of thousands of individuals, touches the lives of millions of individuals, and does so at a very, very small expense. And so he's taken Maricopa Community Colleges and all of their manifestations to a higher level of performance, and so that's the legacy. He's done that in a way where that institution is now viewed as an asset of the community. That institution is now viewed as being available to any member of the community, regardless of family income or ethnicity or family background or family circumstance or age of life or employment background or employment history. And he's figured out how to make all of that work. And I don't think that people realize how hard things like that are. And so his legacy is that the institution is evolved and higher performing than it ever has been before.
Dr. Glasper has been a visionary for the Maricopa colleges. He understood, maybe before some of us understood, the importance of coming together as a system, that the possibility to serve the community better comes from the strength of having 10 colleges that can work together and not 10 independent colleges just serving local communities.
As a testament to his astute fiscal management, Maricopa Community Colleges is one of only 2 college systems in the entire county to hold a AAA bond rating by all 3 houses. What makes this even more remarkable is that this fiscal stability was maintained during the recent recession, when the district faced a loss of over $60 million in state aid.
The Chancellor has been instrumental in ensuring that all through those changes, that the system remains strong, fiscally stable, and that we're still committed to serving the community today in the same way that we were committed to serving the community when we had more resources.
Dr. Glasper has also led the creation of Pathways partnerships with Arizona State University and other East Valley higher education institutions that have resulted in a financial savings for students and families while supporting their baccalaureate completion.
Do the earlier work that was done through Mesa Community College and its articulation and transfer and being a primary feeder to ASU, it has allowed us to pilot a number of different projects, and in the last 6 years, we have expanded our transfer and articulation agreements with Arizona State University, and we have what I would call a premier articulation and transfer program.
We needed massive improvement in the pipeline and the flow between the community college and the university. When I came in 2002, the university was really resistant to transfer students. And through Rufus's constant driving for improvement, we're now at the point now where we have one of the leading transfer programs in the country.
That's the kind of leader that he has been He makes sure that we're listening to the needs in the community, the business community, our K-12 partners, the work that we do with the universities, and always keeping that big picture in mind of what the state of Arizona needs and the role that community colleges play in economic development and workforce development, and reminding us on a daily basis why we do what we do. It is because we have so many students and so many people from the community relying on us for access and opportunity and affordable education.
Through his work, he has helped shape education policy throughout Arizona. Not only did he preside over a dramatic expansion in the East Valley, but his 28 years of experience with the district has helped him provide me with firsthand experience that has been invaluable in my service on the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. I thank you, the East Valley thanks you, and countless students thank you for your tireless dedication to education.
Congratulations to Chancellor Glasper on receiving the 2014 Dwight Patterson Lifetime Achievement Award.
If I might, I will just add, the 4 colleges in the East Valley, to add to the Phoenix East Valley, have been nothing but supportive and fabulous and outstanding to our economy. And we need them. The research that we have done indicates that there are about 157,000 college students just in the East Valley. Over half of those are from the Maricopa system, when you consider Rio Salado, Mesa, Chandler Gilbert, and Scottsdale, all part of the East Valley and their various campuses. And we are delighted to have them. Now, let me just give a personal note. This is delightful for me. I've been associated with Dr. Glasper for years, and I sat as an advisor when he was being selected by the governing board to be the chancellor, and we recommended him back in 2003. You'll remember that we met at Mesa Community College, and it was quite an event. I have been associated with Mesa Community College for 52 years. Now, they are celebrating their 50-year anniversary this year. And here before the board, I want to lodge a complaint. I was the first student body president at the campus, notice how I've said that, at Mesa Community College when they met at the now Landmark Hotel, Landmark Restaurant. And then, of course, the law passed in 65 it is. And so I am not actually the first, but I was the first to the campus, just for the record. And congratulations, Dr. Pan, and congratulations to you, Dr. Glasper. Well done, and thank you very much.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and attendees, it is a pleasure. And when I received that award in December, I was noticing, as you did today, it says Lifetime Achievement. So I don't know what that means, that my career is coming to an end or what. But I am delighted to receive the award, and I was more delighted when I learned the history of Dwight Patterson. And just thinking about the fact that community colleges were not here in Arizona, and he brought the idea back, helped to institute the legislation, was one of our first board members, and has great history in our institution. And I really thank the East Valley Partnership and Rock Arnett and others for this award and for the service. Thank you.
There's no further questions or comments? Nothing? At this time, the board offers opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board. In compliance with the open meeting law, The governing board will neither discuss nor take action on issues raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. We have two people that wish to come forward at this time, yes. The first one is Diane Post. Diane? Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, and presidents. My name is Diane Post. I'm an attorney. I was former faculty at Phoenix College, and I'm here to speak about the proposed closing of the fitness center at Phoenix College. On the 14th of October, I sent you a letter responding to that proposed closing based on common sense grounds, our increased obesity, diabetes, aging population, and the rising healthcare costs. After that, I did a public records request for all of the records concerning that decision that were made at Phoenix College. After I got that material, then I spoke again at the board about that material and what I had found in that, and the flawed decision-making process, the lack of cost-benefit analysis, and the resulting attack on the most vulnerable segments of our society. After that, I did another public records request for all of the documents from all of the campuses regarding the Maricopa Priorities process, and I received over 1,200 pages. Now, I submitted this document to you, my distillation of that 1,200 pages, a week ago, and I know it looks kind of thick, but when you consider I distilled 1,200 pages, I think I did a pretty good job. So, I do hope you read it. I did provide an executive summary, but there is some very vital information in there that you need to know. I compared the academic and the instructional templates from all 10 of the different colleges and the resulting recommendations from the 10 different colleges. I looked at other courses, but I focused mostly on fitness, wellness, and athletics, as these were the most pertinent to the issue that I'm here to talk about tonight. What I found mirrored the smaller assessment that I had made previously at Phoenix College only. Some departments turned in no information at all or very adequate information. Different factors were used in making the decision in no discernible pattern. There was an overall lack of vision with a comprehensive integration of all of the different moving parts, and that was what the whole process was for, but yet that is what seemed to be lacking. All of the colleges agreed that fitness, wellness, and a fitness center was vital. Even the ones who had lost their fitness centers already. They said what a loss it had been to their college, they showed figures what a loss it had been for them, and asked for them back. In some colleges, they have expanded the fitness centers while proposing to close them in other colleges, which doesn't make any sense. And the district also has a very good fitness center and a good fitness program, but it's for employees only. All the colleges agreed that marketing was necessary, but that it was inhibited by district rules, and that if more and better marketing was allowed, that they would be able to increase the income into those different fitness centers. A few of the colleges mentioned enrollment difficulties, and I can verify that as I have complained about that for the last 2 years at PC. The recommendations of the entire process were focused on very short-term thinking. The Maricopa Community College District has sufficient resources, and you need to not be doing short-term thinking, but to look forward, as the earlier teacher said, about making us a model, about making us a national champion, and showing the good work that we do here in Arizona. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. I ask you to reconsider this issue and consider how all of the fitness centers can be marketed and how all of them can have their fitness centers, because it is absolutely necessary for the health of our nation and of our students and of our community. I know you have to make tough decisions, but tough decisions do not mean bad decisions. Unfortunately, wrong decisions have already been made. Do not make the same mistake. Do not compound it, correct it. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Edna, and for risks of saying this wrong, Pasgnaletti. Edna? Thank you, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. My husband always said you have to be good on this speaker. Good evening. Nice to see everybody here tonight. Okay. What am I going to say?
What do you want to say?
Well, I have been going to ASU Phoenix College since 1998. And I have really enjoyed that very, very much, not only for my health, but for everybody, meeting them, visiting, knowing what their problems are and what they can help you with. It's a copy where everybody helps everyone else. And that's what it has done for me. Okay, that's it.
I'd like to move now to the approval of the order of the agenda with the, I did skip the Chancellor's report. Chancellor's report, Dr. Rufus Glasper.
Madam Chair, members of the board, guests, I just would like to make a couple of statements relative to the announcement of the governor's budget. We are being recommended to have a decrease. There are 3 community colleges in the state of Arizona that are recommended for decreases. The 2 urbans, Maricopa Community Colleges, Pima Community College, and the college just south of us, which is Central Arizona. The total reduction is approximately $20 million. And for Maricopa, this will bring our reductions from the state to approximately $64 million over the last 6-year period. I bring that to you because we stand today with approximately 0.5% funding from the state. I had an opportunity in the last, just yesterday, to go down and visit with the leadership down at the state legislature. We recognize that the state needs to balance their budget. And we are the one institution at this point that is not in statute, and the K-12 system is before us, and then the universities, and I know all of them are receiving some level of reduced funding. But the one question that I was asking the legislature, legislative members yesterday, was moving towards zero funding from the state and the odds of us receiving any additional funding from the state of Arizona, given its financial conditions, for possibly the next 3 to 5 years. What type of relationship should we have moving forward? And I proffered to them that we are a large institution. We're the largest provider of workforce training in the state of Arizona. We provide an economic impact in excess of $3 billion annually. For every $1 spent of the Maricopa for Maricopa within our system, we have a return on investment of 3. As we move forward, what we're talking to the legislature and the governor's office about is the opportunity for us to replace our resources by becoming more entrepreneurial. I've had an opportunity to speak to the board in prior open sessions, and I know moving in this direction is going to be different. But we need to think about what does it mean to privatize some of our functions? What does it mean for us to increase the relationships we have with corporations and with businesses and so forth, to enhance our non-credit? 2 years ago, I asked the board to support the opening of the Maricopa Corporate College. It is developing and it is moving in earnest. However, it will not scale as rapidly as we are losing resources. So we're looking beyond the box that we are currently in, and we're asking for state review of our statutes and compliance issues that we have so that we can be more entrepreneurial and more creative and, shall I say again, replace some of the resources that we've lost. Over time, we've also become more effective and more efficient. We've reduced our budgets by about $35 million in operational and another $11 million in capital. We're continuing to refine ourselves. What you saw on the screen in support of this notion of One Maricopa will allow us to move even further in that direction. But we are serving at our high point during the recession 275,000 students. So I end this conversation the same way that I ended it with the state legislature. When we served 275,000 students, we had more resources. When our population starts to grow again, and we still stand at about 260,000, what type of quality will we have? And we went to more part-time faculty, we went to more part-time staff, and I believe that our students, first-generation students, first to come to college, some of the things that were offered today by Dr. Sosa in terms of MOOCs and open education resources. We are doing all of those things. You saw the estimated savings in terms of the cost of textbooks. So we are trying to be creative, but we need the state support. We need the state support in order for us to do the job that we are required to do and stay within our mission. So with that, Madam Chair, members of the board, and guests, I would just say that I would invite you into this conversation with our legislature and with our community folks and with our corporations so that we can sustain a community college that was described and I believe still stands today as one of the best in the nation. Thank you.
Faculty Executive Council, Mr. Keith Hefner. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. President Livingston, congratulations. Members of the board, CEC, and guests. Wow, there's 7 of you. This is historic. I have a short message tonight, and basically, on behalf of the Faculty Association and the Faculty Executive Council, I'd like to offer our services again as a resource to you as you move forward to make difficult decisions and go over and debate the kinds of things you need to do. We are, as I was reminded recently by a colleague, faculty, bleed Maricopa. We're here. We want, and I mean that sincerely. We want to work with you. We want to move forward. You're seeing, I think, you're going to be visiting the colleges very soon. We know that you're making schedules to go out and visit, and we hope that you are just amazed by the kinds of things that we do for our students. And we can't do those kinds of things without the support of administration, our colleagues, and of course the board. So we really appreciate you stepping up to do your civic duty here. We understand the weight upon your shoulders, and we'd like to help. So I don't know how to make that any more clear than that, and we look forward to working with you. And if you need any information from the faculty perspective, you know where to find me, and I will certainly reach out to you to offer our services again in that capacity. Thank you very much, and good luck in your terms.
Thank you, sir. From the employee groups, we have 3 different speakers. Mr. Leo Valverde first from the Adjunct Faculty Association.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, guests. My name is Leo Valverde, and I am the president of the Adjunct Faculty Association. And let me be the last person to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And another person to welcome the new members of the board and also to wish you all good luck as you serve out your terms. What I'd like to do is simply provide a little bit of information about who the adjunct faculty is for our new members, review for some of our remaining members, and then a very, very brief update as to what we are doing. Adjunct faculty are not a monolithic organization. We are a diverse set of people. We have retired educators who are coming back to teach one class. We have brand new educators coming in to teach one class. We are the traditional subject matter experts who are fine supplementing their professional careers to teach one class. And we also have a set of committed and valiant road warriors that are teaching not just the 9-credit load here at Maricopa, but at other institutions, and trying to piece together full-time educational work. But what we do have in common is the value and desire to teach, and we are very fortunate to have the support of all of the members here, and particularly administration, leadership, MCLI, and the Centers for Teaching and Learning. We have a lot of members that are interested in full-time work, but we also have a lot of members that are just cool with one. So we're very hard to put in a box, and that also makes it very difficult for me to represent anywhere between 5,000 and 7,000 constituents before this body. But anything that we can do to help this particular organization in this district, we will do. And as Keith indicated, our door is open as well. Just a few things that I'd like to tell you about what we are working on. In the near future, administration is probably going to be hearing from me or your campus representatives. We are teaming with MCLI to create, or to revive, I should say, the Outstanding Adjunct Faculty Award, and it is our hope that we, in collaboration with the district, hand out at least one recognition per college. So we're going to be reaching out to the different colleges to help us with nominations and the evaluation of those nominees, and then ultimately the selection of those nominees. And we hope to have that presentation in April. In February, the district, in cooperation with Academic Impressions, is helping to host a national conference on adjunct faculty. And I am very pleased to have been invited to help to facilitate a roundtable discussion with some members. There are obviously going to be multiple roundtables, but I'd also like to say thank you to the district for helping me to pay those costs, actually for paying those costs, but also for sending a number of adjunct faculty as well as administrators there so that we can contribute to that discussion as we move forward. So that's what we are up to, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Mrs. Cheryl Caldwell from Maintenance and Operations. Mrs. Caldwell? Good evening.
Good evening, President Livingston, governing board members, Chancellor Glasper, CC, and guests. My name is Cheryl Caldwell. I am the president of the Maintenance and Operations Employee Group. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our newest governing board members. I need to emphasize and re-emphasize the importance of every site having a full and complete M&O department consisting of maintenance, grounds, and custodial. A department that is committed for the success of Maricopa as well as their individual sites. Again, welcome, and we look forward to working with you in the near future. Thank you for letting me present to you.
Thank you. And our last presenter in the employee group, Mr. Dan Huston? Houston? Thank you, sir. From Management, Administration, and Technology.
Thank you, President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Dan Houston, and I'm the president of the MAT Executive Council, and I represent the MAT Employee Group. The MAT Employee Group consists mainly of exempt employees working in management, administration, and technology positions. I know firsthand how the Maricopa Community College system impacts lives. 25 years ago this month, I became a Thunderbird and started school and transferred to ASU, where I finished my degree. The next generation is now attending with my oldest daughter, with 5 of my children having attended Maricopa College, and my oldest daughter will be graduating from MCC in the spring. I share this personal information merely to indicate that I'm invested in Maricopa and the success of our students. And in a similar way, every one of our employees could come up to this podium and share their story and experiences. On behalf of the MAT employees, I would like to welcome new members of the governing board, and we look forward to working with you through Dr. Glasper to improve student success. Student success is interwoven with employee success, and so in coming months, we'll be bringing you updates from our group to help you understand this large and complex organization. Thank you for your commitment and to serve all of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I was so excited to get to this part now that we're here. It seems rather benign. We now move to the approval of the order of the agenda. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor of approving the order of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. No. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
Madam President, I would like to remove 11.2, 12.1, and 13.1 from the agenda.
Okay. Can I have a sec?
I have
Point of
another one.
order,
Yeah.
Madam Chair. According to current policy, I'm not sure, we don't vote on hires.
Yes. So you're talking about 11.2?
Yeah, yes, and I think this
Yes.
probably should be given to us as an information item rather than put on the consent agenda.
Vice Chancellor Sheldon Johnson, can you respond to why it's on there for this time? I think this was the last time.
That's correct. Members of the board, this is the last month that you would see those employments. Next month, we will be starting listing it as just an informational item, as discussed at this month's agenda review.
So we are voting on these tonight?
Yes.
We did elect to stick with the current process until we could transition, which we identified as next month. However, you are correct that the agenda item did pass, delegating that authority to the chancellor.
I withdraw my objection, Madam Chair.
So I'm understanding that Mrs. McGrath can still hold
Yes.
that. All right.
Yes.
I have one additional one,
Mr. Saar.
11.4. We have a change, so I'll talk about that during the, that's the one.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just to be clear here, we're removing 11.1.
11.2. Mm-hmm.
We're removing 11.2, 11.4,
Mm-hmm. And
13, 12.1,
mm-hmm.
13.4, 13.1, and that's it?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move approval with, as amended.
Second?
Second.
I move the consideration of the consent agenda items, I don't have to do this, do I, for 11.2, 11.4, 12.1, and 13.1. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Very good. Okay, 11.2.
Thank you, Madam President. Under the list of specially funded employment, I'd like to know how these are funded. I note that there are 5 small business analysts listed for employment, and I'd like to know where the special funding comes from, if it does indeed come from an outside source.
Members of the board, I'd have to look into that and get back to you in terms of what the specific funding sources are.
Madam Chair,
I can
Janice Washington is here, who handles small business development, and she can answer the question.
Oh,
tonight.
excellent, thank you.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Chair Livingston, members of the board, members of CEC, and guests. The funding for the small business analyst comes from the Small Business Administration.
And no community college funds are used for these positions?
I'll have to look at the specific detail of each one of those, but the program as funded is primarily SBA, and there is a match requirement for the overall funding of the program.
What do you mean by match requirement?
The SBA requires us to have the grant of 50% cash match of the funding. The college's contribution to the program is about $470,000, and the SBA funding that comes in directly to the college is about $1.2 million. And in addition to that, another about $800,000 goes around the state.
I apologize, I didn't take your name down. Could I have your
Janice
name?
Washington.
Washington. Ms. Washington, thank you. One of my concerns is that there are 5 small business analysts being hired here, each one for a salary of $54,755. So if we're funding part of that, we are funding quite a bit of money. And what do these small business analysts do?
Well, as I said, the majority of the funding actually comes from the SBA. And what the small business analysts do is work with entrepreneurs and small business owners, providing one-on-one counseling to them. We provide training and workshops. Our one-on-one counseling is provided at no cost, and that's the law. Our workshops are often at no cost or very low cost. And we leverage with a lot of other funding partners around the state.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, Ms. Washington, thank you for your work, your efforts, and thank goodness for small business administrations and small businesses around America, because that's how we further profit and grow the economy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
11.4.
Madam Chair, we had an individual who changed his date of departure 1 month difference. His name is Michael Cruza. So the difference in our item is simply moving his departure date out 1 month.
Okay. 12.1, Mrs. McGrath.
Thank you, Madam President. 12.1 is the Foster Youth Student Success Project, and I note that it supplies mainly 2 people. It's a salary that takes up most of the grant, one for $97,000 and one for $101,000. I'm very interested in helping foster children, and I'm wondering how these 2 positions are going to be of help there, and why so much money is being spent on 2 salaried positions, and how that's going to benefit the foster youth.
Mrs. Livingston, Mrs. McGrath, and members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, Associate Vice Chancellor Felicia Ganther will address your concerns.
President Livingston and Governing Board members, CEC, and guests. Again, Felicia Ganther, Associate Vice Chancellor, Student Affairs. This was an unsolicited grant proposal that we wrote to the Nina Mason Pulliam Fund. What we found as we were working with students on our Nina Mason Pulliam Scholars is that students who were from the foster care system did not have the necessary support as they were transitioning out of high school, or they were transitioning from their foster homes into independent living. What we did was we asked if Nina Mason would be interested in expanding the work they're already doing to support foster care with scholarship funding. We are working currently with ASU to create a bridge process and a program, so we have similar positions here with our district that Arizona State University has been funded by Nina Mason Pulliam Scholars. So that is the work that we're doing. And we're also working with excuse me, an advisory board that we have created. Thank you to Catherine Perales from Mesa Community College to support our efforts and to grow the support. One of the things that I will mention is that our students who are aging out of foster care will receive a full Pell Grant. So they automatically will have $5,500 to use to support them for tuition fees and books, etc. So what we find is that they need support, that they need someone there to help and to guide them.
Ms. Ganther, I appreciate that, but the Nina Mason Pulliam, what are, they're very generous. I know she was always very interested, especially in literacy. What are these people going to do? What I don't understand. Are they counselors? Are they provide programs? How do they help the foster children?
So the way that we have it set up is that these individuals will be working with all of the colleges, and we will identify all of the students that come through, not only through our financial aid program as they are identified in the system, but also students that come through us through our advisory partners. We will serve as extended caseworkers, case management, advocates,
support mechanisms, identifying human services and resources that they need, as well as connecting them to individuals who are going to be identified at each of the campuses to assist them.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ganther, and you can repeat again, please, for me, just to clarify. This was an unsolicited grant, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Just one question, Ms. Gunther. You mentioned this was a parallel effort with ASU. Could you explain that or describe that, please?
Sure. Currently, the Nina Mason Pulliam Scholars Program is our district connected with ASU. And so what we do is we identify students who either have disabilities or from foster care, single mothers, single fathers who have children who are our scholars and they have a certain grade point average and a need. Those students, we help them while they're in our district. And then when they're ready to transition on to ASU, they receive a bridge scholarship and they become a part of the cohort and the staff that works at ASU. We do leadership retreats and activities. We do services and programs with both ASU students and Maricopa students.
So, Ms. Gunther, there's a parallel program at ASU for foster children that serves as the bridge. Or you all together serve as the bridge.
We are working very closely together to build that, and this is the first step, is helping us to identify the personnel and staff and support in order to make that happen. But we are working directly with them.
Thank you.
And Mrs. McGrath, also 13.1.
Thank you, Madam President. 13.1 is concerning the lease of the restaurant property that was purchased next to Gateway Community College, leasing it back to Bill Johnson's restaurant from whom it was purchased. From what I've been told, the parking situation at Gateway is very dire, and that was the reason for purchasing this property. And it seems that rather than alleviating the parking problem, they're going to lease the restaurant back to the owners, the sellers, for $1 a month. And then if they'd like to lease it a second year, they pay, I don't see it, the $12 a foot, is that, yeah, $12 a foot per month. They will pay the lease back. And I'm wondering why we purchased the property for almost $1 million to solve the dire parking problem at Gateway Community College, and then are not going to be using it for 2 years.
I'd like to call Ms. Deborah Thompson to address these questions and comments.
Madam President, Mrs. McGrath, members of the board, I'd like to ask Dr. Gonzalez to speak to that.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this, Madam President, board, and our Chancellor and CEC. Part of the negotiation process that went back and forth over several weeks and months arrived at a point where the ability for the restaurant to stay in and close out afforded us an opportunity to gain that land as soon as we could. The 1 year is part of the deal. The second year is an option based on both parties. So at that point, we may, we may decide that we will indeed take over the facility 100% at that point. We do have a dire parking problem at Gateway, and we believe that even with the ability to acquire this immediately, that we could continue to work something out and begin to use some of that space. I can tell you, having been there over the past year and a half and walked around that area many times, it's not a very busy restaurant. There are many spaces available that I think that we could probably work out and use during this time.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
It seems to me that if we don't act on this now, it might not be available a year from now. So, in terms of the future, I think it's imperative that we do this.
Mrs. Thompson, is it not correct that when I was reading in your presentation of our last session, that the Johnson's Big Apple is not doing well? In fact, the property is at a lower value now than perhaps ever, and it's either filing bankruptcy or close to bankruptcy. Can you speak on these terms for cost per value?
Madam President, members of the board, the Bill Johnson's has filed for bankruptcy, and I believe some of its locations have or are closing. This one remains open. But as Dr. Gonzalez indicates, it may be struggling to some degree, and what its future is not entirely clear. In terms of the purchase price, we are purchasing it, if the board approves, for $945,000, which is $255,000 less than the appraisal of $1.2 million. So we believe it is a good deal for the district, and for that reason, there was a negotiation for a very reduced rent as the Bill Johnson's Facility and Restaurants decides what it might do into the future.
Very good. That question I decided to ask because I wanted to allay that to the public and those watching at home. So thank you very much. Any other comments or?
Madam Chairman, if I may, I just want to reiterate your point that the value of this property, we are paying less than the appraisal value of the property, but in exchange for that, Bill Johnson is going to stay on the property for at least 1 year. And if they decide to go beyond that, they will be paying market rate of $12. So in effect, they could have up to 2 years, but we tie down the property today under market value, and that's the difference between the appraisal value and their staying another year. So I just want to make that very clear. We're not giving a special deal to Bill Johnson or whomever owns Bill Johnson. I used to go to Bill Johnson when I was a kid, so I'm sure that the original Bill is long gone. So to Bill's sons, Rudy, we're not giving a special deal. This is a thoughtful and well worked out financial negotiation. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
I'm sorry, just had a little chuckle. I'm thinking of the ribs, and now I'm thinking of food. And
I thought you were thinking of the sawdust.
A little bit, yes, I was. That was next, but okay. Motion to approve the consent agenda as it stands. Oh, the balance of the agenda. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I move to approve 11.2, 11.4, 12.1, and 13.1.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
And opposed? It has passed. Okay. Motion to approve the consent agenda. No.
The non-consent.
Okay, good. Consideration of non-action items. Chancellor, 14.1.
Madam Chair, members of the board, CEC, and guests, I recommend approval of the termination recommendation for Michael Osborne. And based on the discussion that we had earlier, I would ask the board to take action tonight.
Yes. What I was asked to make.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I so move.
Second.
There has been a motion to approve and a second. Any comments? No, okay. This was a motion to approve the 14.1, the approval of termination recommendation for Michael Osborne. It has been moved and seconded. Any comments? Stand for that.
Madam Chairman,
Thank you.
call for a roll call vote.
A roll.
Roll call vote.
All right, fine. Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. McGrath.
You're asking for my vote?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Nay.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Aye.
Mrs. Haber.
Aye.
I'm Mrs. Livingston. Aye. Oh, Mr. Starr.
Aye.
Mr. Burke.
Aye.
Oh, Mr. Heap, I forgot about you. Thank you.
5-2.
Oh, yes, it passes 5-2. Dr. Glasper, would you care to comment
14.2.
on 14 point? Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, CEC, and guests, it is recommended that the governing board approve the Glendale Community College new automotive Technology Center be named for former GCC President Dr. Philip D. Randolph. The building is commonly referred to as Technology 3. And before I ask for the board to take action, I would ask Dr. Kovla if she'd like to make some comments.
Thank you, Dr. Glasper. It is my esteemed privilege to bring this item forward through our chancellor to the board in unbelievable recognition for a man who is an icon in the West Valley and certainly at Glendale Community College. And many of you know Dr. Randolph's history, but in case you don't, he has served this Maricopa institution for decades at Gateway Community College, at Glendale Community College, and in the district office as a vice chancellor. There is no one more respected in the greater Glendale area than the Randolph family, represented by Dr. Randolph. And I can tell you that when he and I meet in restaurants in downtown Glendale, he knows everyone and everyone knows him. It is because of his family and their affiliation with the property site on 59th and Olive, where his family and Dr. Randolph ran in those orchards when he was a young boy, picking the oranges, that college exists because of the philanthropy of his family. But more important than that, it has been his living contribution to the education of the citizens of Maricopa County that warrant this highest level distinction. And by the way, he likes to tinker with cars. So we are honored to bring this forward and hope that the board will endorse this recommendation. Thank you.
Please stand, take the dais, sir.
President Livingston, Dr. Glasper, members of the board, colleagues, faculty, staff, and students. I'm honored and humbled by this recognition. I was not expecting it all, but I always like to use the quote from John F. Kennedy in occasions like this, that victories are infinitely divisible. There's a lot of people who made the success of this program in Glendale Community College. That goes way back to the governing board several decades ago who funded a bond or who approved a bond, and the voters who approved it brought expansion to Glendale, another bond after that. This program has tripled or quadrupled in size, very respected. We appreciate the success of the students, the dealerships, the independents who have supported it and made it a Gold Star program. So again, I'm just absolutely overwhelmed by the honor and recognition, and I appreciate it, Dr. Kovla, Dr. Glasper, and the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair? Yes. I would make a motion that the board approve the naming of the Center for Automotive Technology in Dr. Philip D. Randolph's name at Glendale Community College.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, any discussion? Hip hip hooray. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, I guess I have to say that. No, we're not. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
15-1.
Yes. Let me turn the page. Business Services, approval of purchase of land and building located northwest of College property at Gateway Community College. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, we spoke of this purchase just a couple of items ago. Yes, thank you for the correction, Mrs. McGrath. We spoke of the lease, and that's related to the purchase, which is the subject of this agenda item. This purchase would be for $945,000, and that is about $255,000 less than the appraisal price. It's approximately 8,000 square feet of structure and 1.2 acres of land, and we recommend its approval.
I move to approve the, oh.
Madam
that's
Chairman,
all right.
I move it.
I second.
Thank you. Any comments? Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It has passed. Very good. Approval of the final contract amendment for construction of the T3 automotive building at Glendale Community College. Again, Mrs. Thompson.
Madam President, members of the board, this is part of our 2004 bond program, one of the last projects of our program, one of the last projects at Glendale, and we recommend this approval in order to enter the final phases of construction. And this, I believe, would be the facility named now after Dr. Randolph.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
Any comments? Vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 15.3, this is for the approval of purchase of land located east of Building Q at Paradise Valley Community College. You're up again, Ms. Thompson.
Madam President, members of the board, this is as stated, recommended purchase of land. This is purchased from the Flood Control District of Maricopa County, Arizona, and it is for Paradise Valley. The college intends over time to develop it for parking for Building Q, which is the former Maricopa County Library, and also the athletic fields that are adjacent to this area, and we recommend its approval.
Motion to approve? Any comments?
I'm just really impressed we have a building Q. Doctor Who visited Building Q.
Vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And this has passed. This will be a first read of information items from the Business Services. 16.1, review of proposed tuition and fees for the year 2015 to 16. Ms. Thompson, yeah, you're up again. Busy woman tonight.
Madam President, members of the board, as Gay Murphy approaches the podium, I'd give some introduction to this item. Just as a way of reminder, this is the first of official reviews by our governing board of both our proposed tuition and fees, and then some more general information about our budget. Next month, we'll be asking the board to take action on tuition and fees, and that will allow us to program the tuition and fee schedule into our student information system to allow for accurate registration by students for the fall semester. In March, we bring our full budget to the board for review, April for preliminary budget adoption, then we publish our budget in the newspaper, which is required by law. We hold a meeting with major taxpayers, and in May is final budget adoption. Ms. Murphy will speak a little bit very summarily about the proposed budget as it is being finalized in development. In terms of the recommendation on tuition and fees, the recommendation that is submitted by the Chancellor is to maintain the county resident rate at $84 a credit hour, which is the current rate for this fiscal year. Similarly, though not part of this item nor the requested action next month, there is no proposal to increase or access the 2% levy increase that's permitted by the Constitution. So in summary, no tuition rate increase and no 2% levy increase. And with the resources we have some recommended priority uses of that, and Gay Murphy will discuss that and a few other details. I'd ask Gay to begin her presentation.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Livingston, governing board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and guests. This is really a very preliminary, to give you just a preliminary overview, a fast overview of where we are with the budget. We still have some refinements to go, but this is where we are, again, kind of at this point. So in terms of building the budget for 2016, we're looking at kind of a flat enrollment. We had a rapid increase as we went into the recession. Enrollment kind of dropped a little bit, and now we're pretty much leveling off at about 78,500 to 78,300. So we're still about 10,000 students above where we were before the recession started. So we do have quite a workload ahead of us. So looking at the estimated budget for fiscal year 15-16, again, this is very preliminary. The plan is to come back to you in March with revisions where needed. As an example, we know we're going to receive additional information on February 10th from the county about assessed valuations. That's a statutory reporting time, and so we'll be able to update that information for you. We have the governor's budget recommendation. That number won't be final in terms of state aid appropriation until the legislature actually takes action. We don't have any reason to think it would differ significantly, but it could. And then we're really looking for a small increase in our general operating fund, pretty flat in our auxiliary and restricted funds, with a bit of a decline in our capital fund. And that's something that we expected as we move through our 2004 capital program. We're spending down the bond money, opening buildings, building buildings, and this is something that we will continue to see through the years since the governor and the legislature eliminated the capital state aid. We really, other than bond funds, don't have any revenue going into the capital fund at this time other than transfers. So very quickly, in terms of new revenue, we're looking at about $9.3 million from new construction. We'll get a final number on that February 10th from the county. Salt River Project makes a payment to us in lieu of property taxes, but because of some depreciation and property values in recent years, they've been down a little bit. 170,000 reduction, it still is pretty flat, and we're waiting to see a final number from them as well. Although the state constitution permits it, 2% increase in the tax levy, we will not be bringing that to you this year. So the board, or the governor's recommended the 4.1 million reduction. That's probably a good number. I don't anticipate difference in that. In terms of the tuition and fee reduction, that's pretty much a difference in numbers of students between this year and next year, a slight reduction. We're not bringing a tuition rate increase request to you either, so that the resident tuition rate would remain at $84 per credit hour. In terms of other, that is mostly bookstore revenues, which again is dependent on students being able to purchase books elsewhere or a lower price or fewer students. In terms of total new revenue, that's 4.4 million. What we also have going on is with property taxes are a very, very stable source of revenue. Even so, we'll collect about 98-99% of what we levy, but there's a small amount that is just not collectible. We won't collect it. And so we won't run into a deficit. We always budget an amount for uncollectible property tax. During the recession, we had to budget a little bit more. Now that things are pretty much back to being stable, we don't really think we have to set aside as much as for uncollectible debt. And so we're going to add $2 million back in for reallocation. But that's money that we already have. We're just changing it from uncollected to putting it into a source to be allocated. So we really think we have about 6.4 million going forward into next year. In terms of proposed uses, we have some adjustments that are covered in employee policy manuals. Things like anniversary date, recognition of 10, 20, or 30 years of working with the district, recognition for educational attainment, different degrees. It has to be a pretty significant educational attainment. We're looking at operating costs for the new buildings that we're building. The bonds pay for the bricks and mortar, but we have to pay the operating costs, utilities, some of the maintenance staff for the buildings. Then in terms of technology, we're looking at an increase in the software and hardware maintenance and licensing agreements. Part of our ongoing costs for depending on technology so much for our district. We're a big place. In terms of insurance, we're self-insured. We don't see increases all that often, but this year we're looking at an increase in our property and liability insurance because we have an increase in our deductible up to $1 million per incident, and so we're looking at an increase there. We're looking at some student initiatives that have been underway through the district, about 1.9 million, and we've got alphabet soup here, but it's really for the Student Success Initiative, the Seamless Student Experience, Student Enrollment Management, and the Integrated Marketing and Outreach, RE2. I don't remember what that is, but I know it's integrated recruitment and retention. Integrated Marketing, Outreach, Recruitment, and Retention. And two. And then we're looking at increasing the numbers of residential faculty at our newer colleges as part of our 60-40 program, but this would be not district-wide, just at our 3 newest colleges. And that would be a recommendation for consideration for the $6.4 million for use of funds. In terms of our other operating, we have a fee-for-service auxiliary fund. We're looking at ups and downs in adjustment of revenue and projections, about 2.1 million in total. I think we'll see there for the restricted fund. Those are monies that come to us that have legal restrictions outside of the district that govern the use of that money. We're looking at flat. I think, though, what we'll probably see is a decline, perhaps when we come back to you. We're looking at a reduction in STEM funding from the state. Also, whereas at one time we may have been able to get different state-sponsored grants, a lot of that funding has been eliminated because of budget cuts at the state level as well. So we're in the process of taking a hard look at that area as well. In terms of capital highlights, we anticipated a reduction in capital expense as we move forward through the end of our capital development program. We've issued all the bonds, so we won't have any more bond sales or bond funds coming in. And in terms of looking at the secondary tax levy, our debt service is going to drop. We're also expecting an increase in property values, so that in order that we not to collect too much money, we're going to have to look at a recommendation to reduce the tax rate. But we'll know more about that when we hear from the county in February.
Thank you very much. Any comments? No? All right, let's move on to 16.2, and this is the review of proposed fee changes for fiscal year 2015 through 16. Mrs. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, these are a series of course fees across our colleges. There are 134 new fees, 83 increases that are proposed, and 87 proposed reductions or elimination of fees. And the net estimated revenue impact is approximately $496,000. There is a lot of detail that is attached to this item with background on each proposal, learning objectives, what the funds would be used for, and any kind of supplies that might be used. And this would be recommended for approval in February.
17.1 under Business Services Budget Analysis Report, Fund 1, General Unrestricted Fund for the 6 months ending December 31st, 2014. I throw it back to you, Ms. Thompson.
Madam President, members of the board, this is a monthly report provided to the governing board that reviews our general fund, which is our main operating budget. It looks at our budget, compares it to the actuals for revenues and expenditures, compares those actuals in terms of percentage of the budget to prior year, same period. What we do find is that for expenditures, they are spread very evenly across our fiscal year because most of our spending is in personnel. We have payroll every 2 weeks, so it's very, very regular that we see our spending occurring. Our spending is on par with prior years, which you would expect, and it is expected to come within the budget that was adopted. Revenues, our major revenue source at about 60% is property taxes. Those come in two major cycles. In the first half of the fiscal year, in October and November, are the major payments, and then again in April and May are the second major payment. So we received more than half of our revenues to date because so much of our revenues come from property taxes, and we're on target to meet the financial stability requirements that the board set for the district, and that is part of board policy.
17.2, the 2004 General Obligation Bonds, Series A, 2005, Series B, 2007, Series C, 2009, Series D, 2011, and Series 2013, 2004 Capital Development Plan Summary as of December 31st, 2014. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, as has been indicated, we have issued all of the bonds that were authorized by the voters in a November 2nd, 2004 vote in Maricopa County. We issued the last of the authorization in 2013. To date, we have expended or encumbered, meaning we're holding aside 89% of those proceeds of a little over $951 million. The remaining, while not expended and while not specifically encumbered, is targeted to various projects that have yet to commence, hence they are not encumbered. However, there are uses that have been identified, and we expect to expend all the proceeds in the next 1 to 2 years.
Mrs. Thompson, I'd like to personally thank you for myself, and I'm sure the board, for taking each topic thoroughly and clearly explaining each of the matters at hand. Thank you so much. Our community should be very proud. The next section is community linkage, which is governing board reports. And Mr. Burke, do you have anything to report?
No report.
All right. Mr. Gutierrez.
Madam Chairman, there was a community event at South Mountain Community College. It was a tour of the college, as well as an explanation of some of the initiatives that are taking place at the college, particularly having to do with developmental education. It was pretty impressive, and I think it made a number of friends for the college from the South Mountain community.
Wonderful. Ms. Haber.
No report.
Mr. Heap.
No report.
Ms. McGrath.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm looking forward to this Friday morning, the groundbreaking of the automotive building at Glendale Community College. It looks like it's going to be a great day, and I hope to see my favorite people there from Don Sanderson Ford.
It's a big place.
Yes.
$4 million worth.
No,
of place.
$6 million,
Ooh.
Mr. Beaches. $6
Just
million
grew.
plus. I can hardly wait to see it.
Mr. Sarr.
I had the opportunity last month to attend several of our nursing graduation and pinning ceremonies, and I understand after many years of going to these how much work it is to make 2 years worth of effort into getting that RN designation. I think roughly a third of those who we pinned also ended up with their baccalaureate degree in nursing, primarily from NAU, if I'm not mistaken. So a great accomplishment on behalf of our nursing students, and I look forward to them taking care of me in my old age. Which is now, actually. I also had a chance earlier this week to attend the Minority Men Network event, where a number of our men students from around the district took a pledge to complete their degrees. Not only signing a book, but making a pledge to their families and friends, and I want to thank Felicia Ganther for putting that together. She runs the show, and it is a great show, so thank you so much, Felicia. And finally, I spent the day today, prior to this meeting, at the Dream It, Do It manufacturing workshop that we attended. There's a huge gap now, and especially as those of the baby boomers retire in our manufacturing industries here in the valley and throughout the state. And it's up to us as a community college primarily to reinforce that workforce. It takes not only the efforts of our staff, but also the efforts of our friends in the secondary education world to convince students that there is a life in manufacturing and other vocational areas other than being doctors and lawyers. And I think it's a challenge that they have given to us as a manufacturing industry, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure those jobs are filled by our students. Thank you.
Well, I'm about to hit the road and do the tour of all the colleges, and I'm so excited. My first stop is with Dr. Sully's, Phoenix College, and I will have to say, as a teacher of 14-year-olds, in my other life, in my day job, I do get to see the students that will be heading into this great system, and I cannot wait to pick up all the brochures possible and pour them on their desks and say, start choosing. Because right now they'll go, I don't know. But you do know. You do have a dream and a desire, and I think it's here at One Maricopa. And I'm so excited to be part of this great board of great minds and to get out there and see everything. So I thank you. I thank you for allowing me to fumble and bumble tonight. I was a little nervous. I was a lot nervous, and I need to wear my glasses more. So thank you very much, and that is my end of my report tonight. Internal community reports, Vice Chancellor stated no report, correct? Okay. From the colleges, Dr. Ernie Lara, Estrella Mountain Community College.
President Livingston, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of CEC and guests. As you entered the governing board room, I hope you had the opportunity to view the Arizona Forward Environmental Excellence Display. The display recognizes sustainability initiatives around the valley. On Saturday, September 20th, 2014, Arizona Forward, in partnership with the Salt River Project, presented the Criscordia Award. The Criscordia Award is known as the Academy Awards, that's their words, of the environmental community. The event is Arizona's oldest and most prominent competition of its kind. It spotlighted distinguished projects throughout the state of Arizona that demonstrate a high level of environmental commitment and contribute to the region's overall sustainability. The Criscordia Award, a Greek term that means to grow in harmony, sets standard for the exceptional physical, technical, and social development of our state. The award for site development and landscape public sector was given for the Estrella Hall at Estrella Mountain Community College. The nomination was submitted by Colwell Scheller Landscapes Architecture. The project included a strategic focus on sustainable structures and landscapes designed to reinforce the fabric of the campus by continuing a series of linked garden spaces and become a central core for the campus. According to Arizona Forward, the low-maintenance landscape surrounding the campus, new structures appear complex and wild. However, it consists of all low-water use, climate-appropriate planting with drip irrigation. The success of the landscape reveals that, even with an extremely modest budget, if coupled with a critical understanding of microclimate, plants, materials, and detail, a meaningful and engaging learning center can be created. The panel with the Estrella Mountains Award is just outside the boardroom doors. I have brought the award and it's available for you to see. It's sitting on the dais in front of our board president, Mrs. Livingston. I also invite you to personally come to Estrella Mountain to see the actual award-winning, engaging learning settings. Thank you for your continued support of Estrella Mountain.
We now have external community reports, and other than saying the alphabet soup, I'll announce them for you from the Arizona Association of District Governing Boards. Mr. Burke.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, the AADGB has arranged for a Governance Institute for Student Success with the American Community College Trustees Association to be held on Friday afternoon and Saturday, April 10 and 11. I encourage the board to put those dates on your calendars. The Institute is open to all governing board members in Arizona's 10 community college districts. The Institute focuses on discussions relating to policies that lead to student success. Based on assumptions that over 60% of new jobs in the next decade will require some level of college work, ACCT has been working with governing boards nationwide to encourage an increased number of graduates. ACCT personnel and scholars from the University of Texas will lead the Institute, and the event will provide professional growth both for board members and an opportunity for us to get to know board members from other community colleges around the state. You will be contacted by ACCT with information about that institute.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, Mr. Saar with 2 reports, Arizona School Boards Association, and then following with the Association of Community College Trustees, the ACCT.
Yes, we're a member of both as board members. And the Association of School Boards Association is an Arizona organization of mostly K-12 boards, but we have several community college board members that also participate in the services that ASBA provides. ACCT is strictly for board members involved in community colleges, and all of us are part of that organization. I was on the board of that organization last year. We are traveling to Washington, D.C. again for our annual legislative summit, where we attempt to solve all the world's problems, but we do get a chance to talk to our legislators, especially to the Department of Education staff members who actually get the work done and can help us in some of the challenges and barriers that we find ourselves facing when it comes to innovation. And it's our job to let them know that we are the kind of organization that can be out in front without being on the bleeding edge of things, and they need to help us do so, and we need to help them make those changes. So we look forward to that.
Just before I talk about the establishment of next meeting dates for your pleasure, I do want to thank, this is a very big seat to sit in, and I want to thank Mr. Saar for his work and his dedication and his ongoing guidance. So thank you very much, Mr. Saar. He's done this board a great service. The establishment of next meeting dates, times, and places. February 3rd, 2015, 5 p.m. will be a board retreat in the governing boardroom. February 4th, 2015, 5:30 p.m., the HLC Accreditation Overview Governing Boardroom. February 17th, 2015, 3 p.m., Board Policy Committee meeting. February 17th, 2015, 4:30, the Agenda Review. February 17th, we will have a work session at 6 p.m. February 24th, 3 p.m., Board Budget and Finance Committee. And February 24th, 2015, another regular board meeting. So come on back, board fans. We need you. This is the part of the section where I'm going to bang a gavel. This is adjournment. Do I hear anything? I adjourn.